Hey y'all, thanks for stopping by. So, the Free Speech Party is at it again, passing legislation and trying to make laws that are going to make your free speech rights and your ability to speak out against the government more illegal than it already is. Last Thursday, President Trump issued something called the National Security Presidential Memorandum Number 7. Specifically, it's titled Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence. As I'm sure you're aware, throughout Donald Trump's entire presidency, both terms and the in-between, he's rallied a lot behind this Antifa group. Often at his rallies, he would talk about paid agitators, whether he claims they were paid by George Soros or other dark money communists, or maybe just by the Democratic Party directly. He was never shy about painting his enemies as communists or Marxists or fascists and saying that they want to dismantle America. And in the memorandum he's just recently passed, he's specifically targeting these groups. Of course, he's not naming any groups specifically, but what this memorandum outlines is a list of ideals that if a group espouses them, these indicators that they should be targeted and they should be held accountable or investigated, or however the federal government wants to say they're going to invade your group, put your people in black hoods, and throw you in the back of vans so you'll never be seen again. And it's a very peculiar list of indicators, too. If you want to review it over with me, we have such gems as anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the United States government, extremism on migration, race, or gender, hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, and morality. I'm sure if you're a modestly intelligent person of means, you can see this list and understand that some of this isn't going to pan out the way Republicans want. Just to rapid fire point out a few for you. Anti-Christianity, really crazy one, mainly because our founders were all deists who understood the separation of church and state. But wasn't it just 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had the sitting chair of the FBI say to a podcaster at his funeral that he'll see him in Valhalla. So I guess we're deporting Kash Patel. Support for the overthrow of the United States government. Yes, I know you'll run into a lot of Marxist-Leninists on the internet who spell America with the KKK, or maybe you're more familiar with a certain Twitch streamer who would slam his fist on his desk and talk about how America deserves 9/11. But frankly, I don't know how you would say this doesn't account for anybody who was involved with the January 6th riots. You were attempting to overthrow the government. Extreme views on migration, race, and gender are, frankly, hilarious because that's the entire Republican platform at this point. Republicans would love to talk about legal migration, how people should go through the right channels, but when you have someone who is here on a green card or someone who is in the process of getting full citizenship, all of a sudden this is a problem. It doesn't even need to be someone on a green card. It could be a naturalized citizen, but the moment you start saying things they don't agree with, now we have to send you back to your home country, or I guess your parents' home country. Extremism on race is practically a party staple. I know that there's going to be upset GOP members out there who like to pull that, well, the Klan was invented by the Democrats. Well, who flies the Confederate flag now? And again, extremism on gender, this one just seems very up and down. You have one group who says, hey, it's not up to the government how you live, and you have the other group that says the government has to force you to live a certain kind of way. One of these is an extremist, and one of them is not. The bottom three criteria I find really hilarious because they talk about these hostilities towards traditional American ideals. I especially love these two about traditional American religion and morality, because how traditional are you talking, really? Do you want to take it back to the 1940s where segregation was the norm? Perhaps the 1840s where slavery was the norm? How traditional and how far back do you have to go before you're considered an extremist? If I were to proudly say that slavery is an abhorrent creation and every slaver should be destroyed and sent to hell, well, the government would probably try to kill me the same way they killed John Brown. But considering the steps the Trump administration is making to wipe away the legacy of slavery from the United States through all of our federal museums, that part's the least surprising about this to me. Now, all of this is very scary for anybody who does not politically align with this current administration. Even those on the right who don't properly align with their dear leader's walking orders can probably find themselves victimized or vilified by this list, by this memorandum. And as scary as this is, it's important to note that top law firms in DC are looking into this a lot because this is obviously a constitutional crisis that we're going under with this current administration. I am very disappointed to see that some of the top establishment Democrats aren't doing anything at all regarding pushback on this memorandum. They're not talking about it. They're not shouting about it while they're supposed to be doing their jobs in the halls of Congress. It seems a lot of these people who are close to the levers of power don't really care to use them. And you could chalk this up to them being afraid, or you could chalk this up to them being willing to use these tools to root out the nasty parts of their own party or the bits of society that they don't find acceptable. And with indicators of violence like anti-capitalism and extremism on gender, I wouldn't be surprised if this gets used by the more capital defending parts of the Democratic Party as a weapon against the more progressive caucus. Now, as far as you personally goes, I know that this is very scary. I know that you are probably concerned about what's going to happen with you, with your place on the internet, with these conversations you've had amongst your friends, which you believed were in secret, but it's important to know that everything you say online is being monitored. I've always been of this mindset since the 2000s. It was always a running joke that your NSA agent is watching you while you type. I've never been too concerned about the government seeing the things I say. My biggest concern over the past few weeks was the more Republican voting base who was calling people's jobs and trying to get them fired because you didn't cry the right tears for their favorite podcaster. But if this memorandum strikes fear in your heart, that you should stop posting, that you should stop doing political action because you think the government is going to arrest you for it, I would say that I understand your fear, but I would also say that you cannot give up at this point. I'm a big proponent of nonviolent action that forces your opponent to realize that they're a monster. And if you're someone who is just posting, if you're someone who is just street preaching or providing for the homeless, or suggesting that your worth as a person is not connected to your bank account or your ability to produce, if the government is going to arrest you for doing those kind of things, all I can say is serve your nickel and then get your book deal when it's done. This is an absolutely bonkers time to be alive in America, and our free speech rights are under threat constantly by the current administration. But you cannot capitulate. You cannot give up your ability to say what's on your mind, but mainly you can't give up your ability to criticize. If the government is so afraid of what people have to say and think that they're going to throw you in jail or label you a domestic terrorist for saying that the system that we live under is slated against you, well, I just hope this is a sign that the times are changing for the better. I hope this is the worst it's going to get, but I guess until the next time the Trump administration decides to sign some crazy legislation to distract you from the Epstein files again, y'all try to have a good day.